What's up guys, my name is Aaron and this is going to be my review of Search Party. This movie is directed by Scot Armstrong, who was a screenwriter for The Hangover Part 2. And the movie stars TJ Miller, Adam Pally, Thomas Middleditch, and Alison Brie. It's about this groom who's trying to get his bride back after his friend ruins his wedding, and the groom gets abandoned and stranded in Mexico, and his two friends, who are played by TJ Miller and Adam Pally, try to get him back, and hijinks ensues. This movie is very reminiscent of the Hangover movies. I'm a huge fan of the cast. Adam Pally was one of my favorite people on Happy Endings. He was a regular standout on a show that had a bunch of funny people. Thomas Middleditch is super funny on Silicon Valley. He has this kind of neurotic energy that really meshes well with the cast on that show. Alison Brie was underratedly really funny on Community. I love seeing her on comedy roles. TJ Miller is in my top 10 favorite comedians right now, so whenever he's in a project I am more likely to see it just because of him. That's not even mentioning the multitude of famous comedy people that just pop up in this movie too. So yeah, this cast is really stellar, so I was excited to see it even though it has been delayed for 2 years. Like I said, the cast is spectacular. Jason Mantzoukas and JB Smoove, they give really committed performances in this movie. They pretty much play themselves that they do in other roles, but this movie they just go all out and it's really funny whenever those two go on screen. Adam Pally is a little bit more quieter and muted in this movie. He's a naturally funny guy, so whenever he's on the screen you know that you're gonna get some laughs too. TJ Miller is pretty much playing himself like he does in other roles, and he's just a naturally funny guy. This dude, just the way he talks is hilarious, so naturally you're gonna get some funny lines just based off how funny this dude naturally is. Thomas Middleditch plays a kind of different role that he plays in different stuff. He's really high energy and kind of crazy, which is different than what he plays on Silicon Valley. He's really committed to the role, even though it's a kind of cliche role, so you do get some laughs just based off of how crazy and outlandish he's being in this role. I feel like the biggest laugh comes from Garfunkel and Oates, who was a comedy duo that had their own show. They play the most raunchy song ever, and kind of mixed with their appearance, these really sweet looking girls. It's really funny, and it by far the funniest moment in this movie for me. But in spite of the scripts, which I feel isn't that great, I feel like the performances in this movie are really committed. The actors are really funny, and the chemistry between the three leads is really good too, and it really feels like they're friends, I guess. And I feel like the action scenes are shot decently too. Even though this is a comedy and you don't really expect for comedies to perform really well with the action stuff, this movie did a decent job, and I feel like the director could do a decent job doing action movies, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me for good things about this movie. I really didn't like this movie at all. I thought the script was formulaic and not funny. There was 15-minute stretches where I was just sitting there just watching the movie without laughing, which is really weird for a comedy to do. It's very reminiscent of The Hangover, which makes sense because the director and the screenwriter, he was a writer for The Hangover 2. But it seems like this movie is sapped of all of the funny things and the interesting and shocking things that movie has. It's just very bare and bones, you know what's going to happen beat for beat in this movie. And that's kind of disappointing because this cast is so great to me. If you've seen the first two Hangover movies, you definitely know what's going to happen whenever this movie plays out. There are offensive jokes in this movie that aren't really funny. It kind of reminds me of Pitch Perfect 2 when you had the two commentators that were commenting on race and sex and stuff, and they were kind of making jokes about that stuff. But this movie, it's not even as funny as that. I feel like that was kind of pushing the limits, but this is just not funny at all, and the jokes just land with a thud. I don't even really mind edgy humor. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is one of my favorite shows of all time, but you have to kind of be a little bit more interesting or a little bit more intelligent with the way that you do the jokes, and I feel like this movie didn't do a good job with that. There is a scene where one of the characters thought that Mexican was a language, and it just went on so long, and it was just not funny at all. It was just kind of painful to see, and there are probably 4 or 5 rape jokes in this movie at least that just don't land at all. It's not funny. I don't understand why they left these scenes in the movie. I feel like the female presence in this movie is really unacceptable. Even though this movie was filmed in 2014, it just feels really out of date and just kind of parody almost level. I feel like every woman is kind of a shrill person that just wants to take advantage of men, or they're just a blatant stereotype, and it just really is a shame because I feel like the cast on this movie is really, really strong. Alison Brie pretty much gets nothing to do at all, and neither does Kristen Ritter, best friend from Jessica Jones and Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. She was really funny on Don't Trust the Bitch in Apartment 23, so when I saw her name on the cast, I was like, okay, she's gonna like perform and stuff like that, but they don't give her anything to do at all, which is a real shame. Like, the characters in this movie really remind me of Cecily Strong's character on Saturday Night Live, where she kind of makes fun of the female presence in comedy movies and how they don't do anything and they just like sit there and they don't really contribute at all. It just really reminded me of that, and it just felt like a sketch to me, and it wasn't supposed to be like that, I guess. Like, outside of Garfunkel and Oates, there was really no funny or interesting female presence in this movie, and that's a real shame, I guess, in 2016. I just overall didn't like this movie. I thought the acting was good and they had some comedic performances in spite of the script. I thought the chemistry between the three leads was pretty good. You can tell that they actually seem like friends, I guess. The action scenes were shot nicely for a comedy that I really wouldn't expect, I guess. But overall, the script is really formulaic and not funny. And it borrows so much from the Hangover movies and movies like that that is not really like original or organic or anything like that. I feel like the race and the rape jokes were really unfunny, and it kind of bogged down the movie because it's so offensive in 2016 to kind of do those jokes like how they did them in this movie. And I thought the female presence was like borderline almost offensive, like how thinly written and like they weren't given anything to do in this movie. I just felt like it was kind of like messed up, you know what I mean? Overall, I would give this a 12 out of 10. I really wouldn't recommend this movie at all. If you want to see these actors do something funny, I would watch like Silicon Valley, Happy Endings, Community, like shows where they're actually given stuff to do. In this movie, they're not given a lot to do, despite of probably 10 or 15 people that are genuinely very hilarious. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the movie. What did you guys think? Did you like the movie? Did you hate the movie? Let me know in the comments what you thought about the movie, and thanks for watching, guys. Bye.